BEED1-A have lots of talented students.
Truly, partner.
Now, for the next performance, get ready to be entertained for the dance performance of our students. Let's give them a round of applause.
All my ladies, wind to the left, sway to the right, drop it down low and take it back high. Bitch, I don't need introduction, follow my simple instruction. Wind to the left, sway to the right, drop it down low and take it back high. Bitch, I don't need introduction, follow my simple instruction. You see me, I do what I gotta do, oh yeah. On the gas, there's no need to queue, oh yeah. Me and my crew, we got the juice, oh yeah. So come here, let me mentor you. Now, some say I'm bossy, cause I am the boss. Buy anything, I don't care what it costs. Stack like casino, I'm Monte Rustino. If you're the supreme, I'm Diana Ross. All my ladies, wind to the left, straight to the right, drop it down low and take it back high. Bitch, I don't need introduction, follow my simple instruction. Wind to the left, straight to the right, drop it down low and take it back high. Bitch, I don't need introduction, follow my simple instruction.
Lights, camera, action.
I see you looking at my PIC. I know. 그게 땡겨 좀 더 땡겨봐봐 기도 타지. Zoom in, zoom out, okay. Zoom in, zoom out, okay. Zoom in, zoom out, okay. Baby 확하게 확실하게
Look at me, I'm a beautiful creature. I'm your boo, I'm to go on the flex. Wonder Woman, don't you ever forget.
Baby, what you want, baby? Visto que we got one BEED1-A.
Basta mama, you going for it. Let me see the booty, baby. Show me, baby, and just turn around and let me have a good look at it, baby. Shake the booty now.
I can keep a secret, kid. You got my mind on your body and your body on my mind. Taste for the cherry, I just need to take a bite.
Jamais je pourrais t'afficher, mais c'est pas mon délire. D'après les rumeurs, tu m'as eu dans ton lit. Oh, dja dja, y'a pas moyen, dja dja.
Só que a profissão das minas é
abusadamente, ela vai bater, ela vai sentando, ela vai quicando, ela vai batendo, ela vai quicando, ela vai sentando.
abusadamente, ela vem batendo, pum, ela vem quicando, ela vem tremendo, abusadamente,
Abusadamente. Aumenta essa porra aí, é tudo na conta.
A lot of pretty faces could waste my time, but you're my dream girl. You make flowers bloom, girl, you make the stars collide. And I don't know what I did to get lucky like this, but it sure feels fine.
I'm never sleeping on my own, 'cause if you like the way you look that much, oh baby, you should go and love yourself.
I can be lost, I can
Killer, West Side Killer.
I think I lost my consciousness in the sixth diamond. But I'm here right now, just sitting in a cloud. I'm here right now.
A lot of pretty faces could waste my time, but you're my dream girl. You make flowers bloom, girl, you make the stars collide. And I don't know what I did to get lucky like this, but it sure feels fine.
Lights, camera, action.
I see you looking at my PIC. I know, 그게 땡겨 좀 더 땡겨봐 바퀴도 차지. Zoom in, zoom out, okay. Zoom in, zoom out, okay. Zoom in, zoom out, okay. Baby 확 가게 확대 확실하게.
Menino que beija menina, tem que proteger ela tem Anitta. Tem bunda, tem baile, tem ousadia, tem como pra cima, loucura e nós como. Aê, porra!
Give me that.
Baby girl, so my private. Close your eyes, it's just me and you and nobody. It's looking sideways if we
Thank you so much, students. Next one is a video performance made by the students in criticizing Region 1 and 2 sculptures.
Number 1. Why did you choose this piece of work? I choose Boxell Ridge Monument because it is a place with a great and relaxing view of the city, and also an interesting history during World War II. Number 2. Describe the chosen sculpture. Boxell Ridge is a simple monument on the top of the mountain, but a lot of meaning and history. It's a very relaxing place that's good for adventurous people, especially if you are a biker or a runner. You might want to target this place for endurance. They have a great view of the city, and in San Pedro Bay, it is refreshing to stop after take a rest after run or bike. Number 3. If given the chance, are you going to carve a peace pattern to it? Why? If I will given the chance, well, for me, yes. I will take this time and opportunity to carve our national flag to symbolize the sacrifices of our Filipino soldiers.
Hi, I'm Hannibal Warusella from BEED1-A. Why did you choose this piece of work? I choose this piece of work because of its unique style. For me, it looks like an antique figure. Describe the chosen sculpture. Bulul are the most numerous and best known of Ifugao figurative sculptures and usually take the form of either a standing or seated figure. They are carved from a single piece of wood and generally exhibit a stylish and geometric rendering of the human body. If given the chance, are you going to carve a peace pattern to it? Why? Maybe yes, because if I'm given the chance, I will color it so that it can have life and be more beautiful.
Hello everyone, my name is J.B. Sayani from BEED1-A. The title of my sculpture is The Cagayan Visita English. Why did you choose this piece of work? I chose this kind of sculpture because based on what I saw, it was a very nice place to go and tour this place, and there are many churches that you can pray and you can also tour all the churches. As Lent approaches and we count down the 40 days to Holy Week and Easter, it has recently become the tradition to go out on pilgrimages. The Visita Iglesia Spanish for visit churches is a Holy Week tradition where believers visit and pray in minimum of 7 different churches. If given the chance, are you going to carve a peace pattern to it? Why? Yes, I have chance to carve to expose love by visiting and touring, and because of this opportunity, I want to visit the traditions in this place and see how they pray and how they also have to respect each other, which is pleasant.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Fatima Bugaron from BEED1-A. This painting is all about vendors. A. Who is the artist? Oscar Salinas. When was this created? Is on 1986. B. What media did the artist use and how does that affect the way the content is depicted? In this painting, he has used his original technique known as transparent cubism, which involves the layering help in creating movement and depth. Therefore, the painting, even through two dimensionals, seem to have a certain three-dimensional depth. Along with this, the juxtaposition of a straight and curved lines, round and rigid shapes, and soft and hard colors bring life to this famous artwork. C. What the initial reactions do you have to the work of art? Our reaction to the beautiful, and he had a wide imagination in painting. A scene of Filipino vendor of bread. The scene reminds us of simple living and hardships. D. What kind of relationship is there between object or element in the artwork? How do visual art element and principles highlight this relationship? The relationship is all about the seller and buyer. In this painting, he used his original technique known as transparent cubism, which involves the layering of different shapes and color. The painting highlights the every modern life of a Filipino woman.
Thank you, students! For the last batch of performances, let me introduce to you the students as they will showcase their talents in architecture. Thank you so much!
What is architecture? Architecture came from the Latin word architectura or from the Greek word architecton. Archi meaning chief and tecton meaning builder. The product of architecture are often buildings, and historical buildings are usually considered achievements in architecture. Architecture, however, is a general term. It can also mean the physical structure of buildings, the study, science, and art of designing buildings and also structures that are not buildings, or software, the method of designing and construction of buildings, and the practice of offering or rendering design services by a professional architect. Types of architecture. Landscape architecture. Landscape architecture involves the planning, design, management, and nurturing of the built and natural environments. With their unique skill set, landscape architects work to improve human and environmental health in all communities. Examples of landscape architecture is the Vaux-le-Vicomte in Maincy, France, and the Villa d'Este in Tivoli, Italy. Interior architecture. Interior architecture focuses on the interior and its functionality for human occupancy. Interior architecture blends art and science to create, restore, or readapt the inside of various buildings like homes, offices, or other interior spaces. Examples of interior architecture is the Huckletree Shoreditch in London, United Kingdom, and the Ticketsmaster International Headquarters in California, USA. Naval architecture. Naval architecture or naval engineering is an engineering discipline incorporating elements of mechanical, electrical, electronic, software, and safety engineering as applied to the engineering design process, shipbuilding, maintenance, and operation of marine vessels and structures. Examples of naval architecture. Urban design. Urban design is the design of towns and cities, streets, and spaces. It is the collaborative and multidisciplinary process of shaping the physical setting for life, the art of making places. Urban design involves the design of buildings, group of buildings, spaces, and landscapes, and establishing frameworks and procedures that will deliver successful development by different people over time. Examples of urban design is the multi-purpose urban furniture and the glowing bike path. Architecture in ancient world. In the ancient world, architecture can be categorized into four areas, and these are the architecture of Mesopotamia, architecture of ancient Egypt, the Aegean and ancient architecture, and the Etruscan and ancient Roman. Architecture of Mesopotamia. Spanning from the 10th millennium BC to the 6th century BC, the architecture of Mesopotamia encompasses several distinct cultures and primarily existed in the region of the Tigris-Euphrates River system, also known as Mesopotamia. The architectural styling consisted of Sumerian masonry, which meant that the structures were typically mortarless and used rounded bricks for the design. There are three main factors that contribute to the architectural styling of the period. The first is the socio-political organization of the Sumerian city-states and the kingdoms and empires that succeeded them. The second is the role of organized religion in Mesopotamian affairs of state. And the third is the influences from the natural environment. The architecture of the period was predominantly constructed of brick and occasionally stone by the Assyrians. The architectures of Mesopotamia includes the Cholgazandil ziggurat of Iran and the ziggurat of Ur and the Ishtar Gate, which is both located in Iraq. Architecture of ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptian architecture. The architectural monuments produced mainly during the dynastic periods of the first 3 millennia BCE in the Nile Valley regions of Egypt and Nubia. The architecture, similar to representational art, aimed to preserve forms and conventions that were held to reflect the perfection of the world at the primordial moment of creation and to embody the correct relationship between humankind, the king, and the pantheon of the gods. For this reason, both Egyptian art and architecture appear outwardly resistant to development and the exercise of individual artistic judgment. But Egyptian artisans of every historical period found different solutions for the conceptual challenges posed to them. The architectures of ancient Egypt include the Step Pyramid of Djoser, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and the Great Temple of Ramses II. Aegean and ancient architecture. Aegean architecture. The palace at Knossos, Crete is an example of Aegean architecture. The oblong shape of the court and the general layout of the palace shows a centralized arrangement. The rigid layout of the storage magazines put forward the values of efficient administrations and order. It was a setting of harmonious living. The arrangement of the storage jars and the drainage system testifies to efficiency and practicality. The Mycenaean architecture. One of the distinctive features of the Mycenaean architecture is the very large stone blocks which characterize the brilliant fortification structures like the fortifying walls of the Acropolis, the Lion Gate, and the Cyclopean walls. The myth says that they were constructed by the Cyclopes. Ancient Greek architecture. The two principal orders in Archaic and Classic Greek architecture are the Doric and the Ionic. In the first, the Doric order, the columns are fluted and have no base. The capitals are composed of two parts consisting of a flat slab, the abacus, and a cushion-like slab known as the echinus. Etruscan and ancient Roman architecture. Etruscan architecture looked quite different from the familiar stone temples and gleaming marble statuary of Greek architecture. Constrained by a lack of fine stone, Etruscan built their temples of wood, with terracotta roofs and ornaments. Today, the wooden superstructures have almost entirely disintegrated. Example of Etruscan architecture is the Portonacia Temple in Rome. Ancient Roman architecture. Ancient Roman architecture used new materials, particularly concrete, and newer technologies such as the arc, and the dome to make buildings that were typically strong and well-engineered. Large numbers remain in some forms across the empire, sometimes complete and still in use to this day. Architectural in medieval world. The architectural form and style in this era are classified into early Christian and Byzantine architecture, Islamic architecture, Carolingian, Ottonian, and Romanesque architecture, and the Gothic architecture. Early Christian architecture. Early Christian art and architecture or Paleo-Christian art is the art produced by Christians or under Christian patronage from the earliest period of Christianity to, depending on the definition used, sometime between 260 and 525. In practice, identifiably Christian art only survives from the 2nd century onwards. The examples of early Christian architectures are the Santa Constanza and the Basilica Ulpia in Rome, Italy. Byzantine architecture. Byzantine architects were eclectic, at first drawing heavily on Roman temple features. Their combination of the basilica and symmetrical central plan, circular or polygonal, religious structures resulted in the characteristic Byzantine Greek cross-plan church, with a square central mass and 4 arms of equal length. The example of Byzantine architectures are the Hagia Sophia and the walls of Constantinople in Istanbul, Marmara, Turkey. Islamic architecture. Islamic architecture is a centuries-old category of architecture that is rooted in the principles of Islam. The striking sculptural forms and often dazzling ornamental detail that characterizes Islamic buildings include some of the most awe-inspiring built structures on earth. Some examples of Islamic architectures are the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, Turkey, and the Taj Mahal in India. Carolingian, Ottonian, and Romanesque architecture. Carolingian architecture is the style of the North European pre-Romanesque architecture belonging to the period of the Carolingian Renaissance of the late 8th and 9th centuries, when the Carolingian dynasty dominated West European politics. Ottonian architecture is an architectural style which evolved during the reign of Emperor Otto the Great. The style was found in Germany and lasted from the mid-10th century until the mid-11th century. Ottonian architecture draws its inspiration from Carolingian and Byzantine architecture. Romanesque architecture is an architectural style of medieval Europe characterized by semicircular arches. There is no consensus for the beginning date of the Romanesque style, with proposals ranging from the 6th to the 11th century, this later date being the most commonly held. The example of Carolingian architecture is the Amorbach Abbey in Germany. The example of Ottonian architecture is the Church of St. Michael in Germany. And the example of Romanesque architecture is the Cathedral of Monreale in Italy. Gothic architecture. Gothic architecture, architectural style in Europe that lasted from the mid-12th century to the 16th century, particularly a style of masonry building characterized by cavernous spaces with the expanse of walls broken up by overlaid tracery. Examples of the Gothic architectures are the Milan Cathedral in Italy and the Cologne Cathedral in Germany. Architecture in modern world. Architecture in the modern world is divided into Renaissance architecture and Baroque architecture. Renaissance architecture. Renaissance architecture is a style of architecture that emerged in early 15th century in Florence, Italy, ushering in a revival of ancient Greek and Roman classical architectural forms. It supplanted the prevailing Gothic medieval aesthetic. Some examples of Renaissance architecture are the St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City and the Basilica di San Lorenzo in Italy. Baroque architecture. Baroque architecture is a style that emerged in Italy in the late 16th century. It was a more theatrical version of Renaissance architecture, with a dramatic lighting and color, illusionary effects such as trompe-l'oeil, and designs that played games with architectural features, sometimes leaving them incomplete. Examples of Baroque architecture are the Royal Palace of Madrid in Spain and the St. Paul's Cathedral in London. Architecture in the contemporary world. Architecture of Romanticism. Romanticism expressed itself in architecture primarily through imitations of older architectural styles and through eccentric buildings known as folies. Medieval Gothic architecture appealed to the Romantic imagination in England and Germany, and this renewed interest led to the Gothic revival. Examples of the Romanticism architectures are the Pena Palace in Portugal and the Eiffel Tower in France. Architecture in the Philippines. During 330 years of Spanish colonization, the Philippine architecture was dominated by the Spanish influences. The Augustinian friars, along with other religious orders, built many grand churches and cathedrals all over the Philippine Islands. During this period, the traditional Filipino bahay na bato, or the Filipino for house of stone, style for the large houses emerged. These were large houses built of stones and wood combining Filipino, Spanish, and Chinese style elements. Architectures in the Philippines includes the ruins in Talisay, Negros Occidental, San Agustin Church in Manila, Calle Crisologo in Vigan, Ilocos Sur, Intramuros in Manila, Church of San Agustin in Paway, Ilocos Norte, and the Parish Church of San Ildefonso in Tanay, Rizal. And these are the references of this video presentation.
Now, let us commend the students as we will now give the certificate of participation.
To give us the closing remarks, may we call on Mr. Paulo Siletaria, our Vice President.
A pleasant good evening to all. On behalf of the BEED1-A class officer of Bao Community College, I am Paulo D. Siletaria, the Vice President of the class. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for cooperating this virtual culminating activity in Art Appreciation 2022 possible and successful. Thank you to our art appreciation teacher, Ms. Mari Conrances, given your precious time to see our effort, and for that, we appreciate you. To all my classmates who participate in this program, thank you. Not everyone has the guts and confidence to do so, but you took the chance not just about the grade, but to showcase your talent and skills, and for that, congratulations. As we have witnessed today, all of our efforts definitely paid off. Humbly today, we are making an history again as this virtual culminating activity of art appreciation. And this won't finish without your cooperation. So again, we thank you and congratulations to all of us.
Dream big, reach high.
Enjoy life and make the dream possible.
This has been Mark Jeremy B. Sarahan
and Hazel Jane Andalis.
Goodbye, everyone.